I was once asked what we'd do if Yogiri was coming to our planet with the goal of killing every living thing on the planet. Yogiri at first glance seems nigh on unbeatable, with an ability that brings instant death on all who oppose him, but that may not be necessarily true. Claiming Yogiri is the strongest in fiction is kind of a fallacy. Unless you've read every book, watched every show, movie, novel, web novel, fanfiction, forum post, you'll never know what sort of character is out there with the capacity to defeat him. Unfortunately, I don't have time or energy to look through these sources, so I picked a few characters in my memory who I think may have the ability to defeat Yogiri Takatou. I'll be listing them out from the least likely to most likely chance of beating him. Anyways, let's begin. Imagine the most powerful attack in your mind. It destroys everything, including every form of matter. Imagine the most broken power in your mind that rewrites all of existence. Imagine the most unholy abomination of an attack that even God would faint at. Imagine launching such an attack towards someone. But once the dust settles, nothing happens. They didn't take any damage, not even an atom-sized scratch. Well, that's pretty much a Hiko from a Daka box. Hiko has pretty much one of the most powerful defensive abilities I think I've ever seen, and it's one that lets him defeat a literal reality-destroying entity with a rubber band. Hiko's abilities are sometimes named as irreversible destruction, so basically when he hits you, the damage is permanent. No matter what, it doesn't matter if you try to time travel, mess with reality, or use the most advanced healing techniques in the universe. Nothing can undo the damage he causes. Once you're hit, you're stuck with the wounds forever, even if you bend the laws of physics or reality itself. Hiko's attack leaves a mark that's impossible to erase. Kumagawa's all fiction, which completely undoes the laws of causality, was unable to undo its effects. However, this ability works in a defensive capacity too. The power grants Hiko complete invincibility. With this ability, he is entirely immune to any form of damage, no matter how catastrophic. It doesn't matter if the attack could destroy the universe, manipulate fate, or alter atoms. Nothing can harm him. Their invulnerability is so absolute that not even a Jimunajimi could beat him, despite fighting him hundreds to thousands to millions of times, using every single skill at her disposal. A Jimu is a being with 12 quadrillion plus abilities, a majority of which can manipulate reality, fate, and the concept of death, the literal plots of the manga, and so much more. She used each and every one of them, and they didn't work. Remember, a Jimu is heavily implied to be God, with full dominion over death and destiny. Hiko didn't even notice her powers were used, because that's how insignificant they were. His defensive ability nullified all 12 quadrillion of them. He even seemingly killed her or destroyed her physical form, with her unable to recreate it. That's how I see a fight playing out with Yogiri. His instant death ability will be completely nullified by Hiko's Hack's defense, no matter how much he tries. Then Hiko will destroy Yogiri's human avatar, in which Yogiri will be unable to recreate a new one, due to the irreversible nature of his damage. But irreversible destruction isn't the only concept Yogiri has to worry about. There's in fact an even more powerful concept, one that encompasses everything. And it may sound mundane if you hear it. When you kick a ball, it obviously rolls in the direction of the force applied. When your heart beats, your blood pumps. When the sun generates light, it bounces off your eyes, allowing you to see. Dogs bark as a form of communication. Water is wet. Space is endless. Now you might be wondering why I'm bringing all this up. Well, everything here abides by a formal logic. We, as observers of the universe, expect things to act a certain way, for things to behave like how they're supposed to. Every action has a reaction, and every reaction has a root cause. They always lead to a result. This is what we call logic and reason. It's important for the function of everything. Imagine if the earth didn't spin, if water wasn't wet, if cats barked. They don't really make sense. There are many forms of logic you encounter in your everyday life, including unexpected phenomena or events. We sometimes call this luck or bad luck, but in reality, it's simply the flow of logic and events, unfortunately or fortunately, colliding with you. This negative side of logic or luck goes by another name, the flow of calamity. Calamity is the concept of bad things happening. from the smallest inconveniences to the largest of catastrophes. From losing your phone to being involved in a plane crash. Every form of bad luck, karma, or wrong place at the wrong time is simply the result of the flow of calamity. In the JoJo universe, calamity is not something that simply appeared. It has always existed in the world. When Toru was born, he somehow managed to tap into this calamity energy and used it to form the Wonder of You, a physical embodiment of the flow of calamity. Wonder of You was a stand and ability that created certain conditions to activate the flow of calamity, the initiation of pursuit. When anyone actively chooses to get in the way of Toru's plans or attempts to attack him, calamity will activate. Because calamity is logic, and logic represents everything, every object and phenomena under heaven and earth will begin to attack the pursuer until they're dead, even bending the laws of physics and the universe to do so. Think of calamity like Murphy's Law. Anything bad that can happen will happen, no matter the circumstances. Another way to think of it is like death from Final Destination, where a series of events occur in an attempt to kill our protagonists, sometimes hours or even weeks in advance. This can be seen with the Radio Gaga incident, where calamity is implied to have started World War II, just so Lucy Steele wouldn't find out the truth of the Rokakaka fruit. Remember, the Wonder of You isn't simply a stand ability or the embodiment of calamity. He is logic and reason itself. When its body was destroyed by Satomu Go Beyond, it was stated that this did not kill it, because logic can never be erased. It will eventually return with a vengeance. Wonder of You simply defeats Yogiri simply because the flow of calamity would include the end. Yogiri as a being can be considered the ultimate form of logic. Everything has an end, and Yogiri simply delivers that end. But at the end of the day, death and the end are an aspect of the logic and reason of the world. I'm not saying that calamity is above the end, I'm just saying that Yogiri's nature is no different from the cogs that run all of creation. Think of logic like a machine. Yogiri will be the largest and most important gear in that machine, but still, the machine itself is what's powering everything. Logic and calamity is an all-encompassing concept that Wonder of You can exploit to both survive and potentially beat Yogiri. Go kill Santa. I mean it. Go kill Santa. I want you to grab a gun, go to the North Pole, and pop him right in the head. I'm not talking about the concept of Santa Claus. I'm not saying you should erase the memory of him from everyone's mind. And no, I'm not talking about the one from your local mall. I mean the legitimate Santa Claus in the North Pole. You can't? Well, that's when we run into a problem. Santa Claus doesn't exist. The story and concept exists in our minds, but not the actual figure. They are a non-existent entity we cannot manipulate in any way. Not non-existent in the literal sense, as that gets way too complicated, but one of the scientific, the theoretical, existing in such a way they both exist and don't exist in reality. Can you possibly impose laws and logic onto such a thing? Well, that's what's unique about it. Existing in such a state means that it's quite difficult to state the fundamental laws that apply to it. Take Hato Manabu, for example. Hato Manabu is the protagonist of the light novel manga series Murasakuro no Quella, a series that delves into different scientific concepts and magic in order to tell its story, and it's because of this embrace of the complicated magic and science that allows her to bypass Yogiri's instant death ability in a unique way. Okay, stay with me because this will require some complicated explanations. Hato, throughout the course of the story, has the ability to communicate with parallel universe versions of herself, but there isn't just a finite amount of parallel versions, but in fact, infinite variations. As the story progresses, her ability evolves, in which she can synchronize her mind with infinite parallel universe versions of herself, and if she wishes, she can not only gain the knowledge and experience from her parallel selves, but also gain special skills of her alternate selves as well, such as learning magic, as technically these aren't parallel versions, but different states of the same reality, similar to Schrodinger's cat. So technically, she's known magic all along, and just learned how to access it once again. This strange ability to tap into infinite variations of her reality allows her to be pseudo-immortal. Not only that, when she dies, her memory synchronizes with one of her many alternate selves, effectively restoring her back to life, by replacing her with another version that retains the memories. It's similar to Schrodinger's cat. Within the box, the cat is either alive or dead, and you can't possibly know which one it is until you open the box and see for yourself. Sure, you might have killed Hato in this world, but in another world, she's very much still alive, meaning that she essentially gets revived. But her ability to basically be immortal isn't what helps her fight Yogiri. No, it ultimately comes down to her ability as a non-existent being. You'll see in the story she learns about the theory of everything, and using the knowledge she becomes a non-existent being that cannot be observed within the universe. She practically does not exist in any kind of tangible form, being completely outside the universe's influence, including its fundamental forces. She's kinda there, but also not at the same time, and she can observe the universe but can't be observed back. Okay, this will become even more complicated, so pay attention. Her existence calls back to Schrodinger's cat. Think of Hato like the cat in the box, being observed by us and a character. As long as she's in the box, there's infinite universes where she's either alive or dead. But because of this, it means that she has a predetermined outcome between the two, until you open the box to see for yourself. Basically, as long as she's being observed in some way, she has a predetermined fate of two outcomes. However, by learning the theory of everything, she now transcended this box. She no longer exists within it, meaning she can no longer be tied to the two outcomes, and observers can no longer look and find out the truth of whether she's alive or dead. Since she doesn't exist in the box, she can't be alive or dead, meaning the only option is not to exist at all in the mind of the observer, which allows her to still exist, but not in any form that can be observed by living things. This isn't simply a form of immortality or lacking death. She in fact lacks anything. She's not bound by any law of the universe, and if she's not bound by any law, then she doesn't exist. She's as real in this world as a figment of your imagination, as Santa Claus or Tony who's still with your wife right now. So I don't know why you're watching this video and not doing something about it. But she herself can still be observed in the universe. This is why Yogiri can't kill her, as there's nothing to place death or the end onto. It's like telling him to kill the monster under my bed. They simply don't exist. It's like telling one to give you the ending of a film that hasn't been made, or trying out a dish they haven't cooked. But although Yogiri can't interact with her in any way, she can still mess with and observe our reality. There's still tons of information about our character that is too long for me to really go over. Her powers and abilities are so diverse and connected to quantum mechanics that I'm not really qualified to talk any further. Keep in mind that this is a very simple interpretation of her powers, and maybe it's a bit more complicated or simple than I've described. It's ultimately up to you guys to correct me. But imagine if fundamental concepts weren't just abstract notions, but actually living, breathing entities with their own consciousness and desires. Picture a universe where these ideas, like cause and effect, existence, and infinity, weren't just passive principles, but active participants in cosmic drama. They'd interact with each other, forming alliances, engaging in conflicts, and constantly evolving their relationships. And I'm not talking about living embodiments of these concepts or anything like that. I mean, what if the actual fundamental concepts were alive? They control every aspect of that concept, and if they were to die, that concept would essentially be erased. Well, this is pretty much the Endless from DC Comics. The Endless are a group of 7 powerful entities, each embodying a fundamental aspect of existence. They are much older than the universe, and far more powerful than 99% of beings in the DC universe. In fact, they are basically omnipresent, since the concepts they embody exist everywhere. Dream represents the essence of dreams and storytelling. He embodies the world of imagination, fantasy, and the subconscious mind. He oversees the realm where all dreamers go when they sleep. So every story, every idea, every invention, every thought, it's all thanks to him. Desire represents the force of craving, wants, and lust. So every time someone strives to achieve a certain goal, it's all thanks to desire. Despair represents the concept of profound sorrow and hopelessness. She is the embodiment of the dark and painful aspects of emotion. Delirium is madness, chaos, and the unpredictable nature of the psyche. She embodies a transformation of clarity and joy to more chaotic and irrational aspects of the mental state, like anger, for example. Destiny represents the concept of fate and predetermined nature of life. He embodies the idea that certain events and outcomes are fixed, so anything that's ever happened, anything that will happen, he's seen it all in advance. Death embodies the natural and inevitable end of all life. She isn't just the end, but an integral part of the life cycle. Destruction is pretty basic. Everything is built, which also means that everything will be destroyed. So how exactly will living concepts have the ability to beat Yogiri? I know what some of you want to say. Yogiri can simply just destroy the concepts with his ability, or Yogiri can destroy their avatar. In regards to the second point, that doesn't really matter. The endless are omnipresent. They exist everywhere, so destroying their avatars means nothing. In regards to the first point, I'd argue that Yogiri somehow destroying the endless would actually grant them total victory. Hear me out. The endless are fundamental concepts, like their existence is integral to the function of the universe. If they were to die in any permanent way, that concept would essentially be erased from existence. Even Yogiri has exhibited every aspect of the endless, meaning he abides by their concepts. Even in his eldritch state, he's effectively still governed by them in some way, shape or form. If Yogiri kills desire, he would essentially become a brain-dead husk with no goals or aspirations. He would no longer have the desire to protect his friends, return home, or even keep on living for that matter. If he kills despair or delirium, he'll become an emotionless drone. If he kills dream, he would no longer have any real thoughts or ideas. Most importantly, if he kills death, that would essentially nullify his powers. Now your first response is probably to say that Yogiri is the end, not death. But the end and death are two intertwined concepts. The idea of death is fundamentally about the end of everything. Death signifies the absence of progress or development. This notion isn't confined to living things alone, it applies universally. Everything is subject to eventual decay and death, whether it's living things, inanimate objects, or even celestial bodies. Just as humans will face death, so will cars, planets, stars, and the universe itself. That's what death of the endless is. She's the eventual end of all things. She and destiny are intertwined, the ultimate forms of fate. Together they represent what Yogiri represents. These three are one and the same. If Yogiri kills them or destiny, he is killing his own instant death ability. He is erasing his own existence. To say that Yogiri can kill them is like saying you can drown water or blind light. Death, destiny, and Yogiri are not separate beings, they are the exact same. If he kills death, he is killing his own capacity to bring upon death, because death and the end would no longer exist. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of this video. Feel free to give me your own ideas on who you think could realistically beat Yogiri.